All right, looks like it's working. I've been having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to get my tripod going here. Okay. Also, I've noticed my tripod doesn't want to hold the weight of my phone anymore. Woo! See? Dropping me down. Okay, I'll just sit back here. All right, so it's Monday night. We're going to talk about some cool things about essential oils. I wish this thing would go up a little higher, but it doesn't want to. Okay, that's good. All right, it's hot here. It's humid. It feels like I'm in a steam room / sauna. I hope everyone is having a great Monday. Good start to the week. We had a teaser last week. I thought fall was coming. Kind of feels like today'd be a good day to go to the pool. So tonight we are going to talk about, got bugs all over me. Okay, checking for spiders. Tonight we're going to talk about internal usage. Scary, I know. There's a lot of misconceptions about internal usage, so I'm really hoping to clear that up. So we will talk about that tonight. Let me kind of give a second for some other people to join. If you join me, say hi, so I know this is working. I have my notes and I have an article I printed out that is fabulous. Hey, Brandy. All right, so I know I'm working. So tonight we're going to talk about internal usage. I know that's scary, and there's a lot of misconception and misinformation out there when it comes to taking our essential oils inside of our body. And because of that, it's really hard to, understand what's real and what's not. So I'm going to kind of break it down for you and talk to you about the different ways you can use them that way, but also kind of the science behind why it's benefit and not a harm, okay? So I won't lie, if you do a Google search on using your essential oils internally or orally, you're going to come up with some really scary stuff. That's why I want to give you some science to help you understand why it's not a bad thing. Now, keep in mind, everybody in this group, we use doTERRA, okay? So this education that I'm offering you is going to be doTERRA specific. I have experience with a lot of different brands of essential oils, and I would, even though I might have used them as a mouthwash or so back then, I would never do that now, just based on what I understand about chemistry and safety, purity, that kind of stuff. So I just want to remind you, when you get a cheap essential oil, we'll use peppermint as an example. Peppermint is often used in many applications. What usually ends up happening with peppermint is it's really corn mint. It smells a little sweeter, actually. So that's why we want to make sure we're using a good quality essential oil when we're using them this way, because if you were to take corn mint internally, it could cause issues because the chemistry of corn mint is very different than the chemistry of peppermint. Okay? So I just want to throw that disclaimer out in case there are some of you that are mixing brands, and if you are, that's okay. But just keep in mind the education that I give you is based on doTERRA quality. So let's talk about internal and oral. So I like to put them in the same category because sometimes people get confused. There's actually 6 ways that you can use your essential oils this way. So I'm going to get into it. And 2 of them, I bet you didn't know you could do it that way. So I want to break down for you, how do you know if you can use an oil that way? So we know we can use our oils aromatically, topically, and internally, but not all of them can you use internally. And here's how you can tell the difference. So doTERRA, while the essential oil is not FDA approved for the things that we use it for, they are FDA approved, or what we call generally recognized as safe, GRAS, GRAS, to be used for consumption. So every single product out there in the market, whether it's food, vitamins, cooking oil, whatever, is going to be labeled as GRAS. And that's really important. Basically, what the FDA is saying is that, okay, yeah, this is safe for you to put inside your body. That's all it's saying. It's not saying it's approved for the thing that you're using it for. So FDA approval of those products require labeling. And we actually comply with that labeling. We have for years. We are one of the few essential oil companies that comply with that labeling, which is why many essential oils say not for internal usage, because they don't comply with that labeling. They don't want to go through that effort. It takes a lot of money. So here are two oils. I have Breathe and I have Slim and Sassy. Slim and Sassy is an internal oil. We know it for that. In fact, I'm going to take some now because I want to avoid my sugar cravings. Okay. So Slim and Sassy has two things on it that let me know it's okay to take the way I just did. One is a supplemental facts box. I know it's backwards, but it's there. The other is the expiration date at the bottom. That doesn't mean the oil expires. It just means that because we're putting it in our body, we have to put an expiration date. So like this one is like, I must have had this bottle for a while because this says May of 2018. So, but that doesn't worry me because I know that this essential oil is good for many, many years. Now, Breathe, on the other hand, this is a topical and aromatic oil. It does not have an expiration date, okay? Actually, this one does. That's so weird. They must have changed it. So it does have an expiration date, but what it doesn't have is those supplemental facts, okay? So that's what we're really looking for, is anything that we put in our body or we consume is going to have a supplemental facts. You're going to see that on everything, from food to cooking oils to vitamins, medication, everything, okay? So that's what you're looking for when you have your oils and you're not sure, like let's say you have a cold and you have a respiratory issue and you're thinking, I wonder if I can take Breathe in water, okay? I've made that mistake, thinking it was peppermint. The bottle label was, the wrong lid was on it. It doesn't hurt you, it just is a pretty bad taste. But there are oils in here that if you had too much contact in internally, they would cause some irritation. So we just want to be careful of that. I didn't have any issues, don't worry. Okay, so the 6 ways that you can use your essential oil. One way is sublingual. What does that mean? It means under the tongue. So it's actually the most effective way to be using your oils that way, because the blood capillaries are very close to the surface, so that allows for maximum absorption and fast pass to the bloodstream. This is why when I use, let's say lavender, because I have some allergy issues and itchy, watery eyes, and I take a little bit of lavender and I put it under my tongue, very quickly I notice that starts to go away. Let's say you're having some sort of mood issue or anxiety and you want to do an oil for that. That's going to be a really quick way for it to get to the brain. So I'll show you, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can get a dropper and you can actually drop the oil under the tongue. Now I will say this, if you drop too much oil underneath there, it's going to cause it to wash away with, when you drink or with the saliva, because you will get more saliva production. So what I actually do is, and lavender is a better example, but this is my Slim and Sassy. So I'm going to take that oil and then I'm going to take that with my finger and put it underneath my tongue. So that's what I would do in that instance. Peppermint is also really good that way. Frankincense, especially if you've got any kind of depression or anxiety or anything like that. So this offers a very fast therapeutic effect, which enables rapid absorption. So it bypasses the first pass metabolism in the liver. So that means that your body is getting a higher dose delivered than any other method. So you put it in water or a capsule, okay? But like I said, you want to use low doses. So I'm not going to drop 2 drops. So when I say you need 2 drops of frankincense under your tongue, every day for depression, for example, then you might take your finger and do that dab method and stick it under there. Or another thing you could do is drop them under your tongue and just hold still, okay? And try not to drink any water for a while and let those absorb in. It takes about 30 seconds for oils to absorb into the skin like that. Okay, so number 2 way to use your oils internally is with capsules. This is my favorite way because there's so many oils that are so good for our body, but they taste absolutely horrible. One really good example of that is On Guard. So these are the On Guard capsules, the gel caps. I love these because the capsule is a little bit thicker and they're not like your typical veggie cap. So they do offer a very slow release into the body, getting down into the gut where our immune system actually resides versus our stomach. So that's why I really like capsules. And so for internal usage, anywhere from 1 to 10 drops of oil. Let's say I'm trying to fight candida. So I might put oregano, maybe some melaleuca in there with some coconut oil, okay? You can do that. You can add some coconut oil to your capsule, and this allows the oil not to, just like on the skin. Strong oil on the skin, it's uncomfortable. Same thing with the inside of the body. I've done that before, where I made my own little flu bomb and I put way too much oregano, and I was taking spoonfuls of coconut oil afterwards because I could just feel it burning down there. So we just want to make sure that we are mindful of not using too much. So another way, in your drink or beverage. So basically, this is really not much of a rocket science. 1 drop per 4 ounces of liquid. So if you're drinking a glass of water and your glass is, I don't know, 8 ounces, you might drop two drops of wild orange in there. Little tip though, when you're using water, warm or room temperature water is better. Cold water does this to the oils, like that. Nice water that's not so cold just makes them relax. And so they seem to mix in the water a little bit better. Also, shot glass method. That's probably my favorite way to use them. Shot glass. So, Slim and Sassy. Let's say I want to, manage my food cravings. So I'm going to drop maybe 2 drops of Slim and Sassy in here, 1 drop, whatever you can handle. Water, shot glass, drink it. So that's what I do. This is what I do for allergies too. Lemon, lavender, and peppermint, 2 drops each in my shot glass. Drink it down every 30 minutes maybe, just depending on how bad they are. So I really like that method. You have a sore throat, you may want to drop a couple drops of lemon in there. Have a cough, a couple of drops of lemon in there, or lime, or whatever you prefer. Okay, so that's the shot glass method. Personally, I don't really like to sip my oils. I like to just drink them and get it over with. Cooking. This is where you can get really fun. So we have fantastic oils for cooking, like cilantro and oregano and basil. And I had to drop a basil to my spaghetti just because having fresh basil, I don't know what it is with my grocery store, they don't sell it. So that's what I do. Now, oregano is really strong. I'm not going to do 1 drop of oregano in my spaghetti sauce. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a toothpick and I'm going to stick it through the bottle down in there and get some oil on it, and then I take that toothpick and stir it around in my cooking. And that's how it's going to work. If you get a little bit too much, just continue to cook your food, and eventually it starts to, evaporate out. I always like to see who's joining us. So if you have questions, feel free to comment too, or experiences you want to share, or anything like that. Go ahead. Okay. So, cooking. Now, these last 2, are you guys ready? They're kind of personal, little TMI going on right now. So the last 2, and a lot of people probably don't know you can do this, and I'll tell you why, or in instances where you'd want to. One is vaginal insertion. I know. There are 3 ways you could do this. You can do 2 to 3 teaspoons of carrier oil in a vaginal syringe and just irrigate. Or you can use a tampon and soak the oil up and put it in overnight. Caveat, don't use a tampon with chemicals. Use one that's like cotton, chemical free, okay? Because you don't want to leach those chemicals in there with those oils. I think that would just make it like fast track chemical insertion. So don't do that. And then number 3, the drops of oil in warm water to irrigate using the syringe. But I want to throw some caution out there. Remember, water makes our oil stronger, so it can be uncomfortable. So I have not tried that one. I prefer the carrier oil. And actually, the only way I've ever done this, okay, you guys ready? I'm going to get a little TMI on you here. This is for yeast infections, or instances where I start to think, or maybe the risk was high for UTI. Because UTI, remember, is the E. coli sitting on the outside of your skin and then making its way up into your bladder via your urethra. So I want to kill that bacteria on the surface. So what I do is I get a little bit of coconut oil, and I keep this like big gallon jug in my bathroom with a spoon because I don't use my hands. That's gross. That makes the coconut oil, ugh. So don't use your hands because you have germs on your hands, and the coconut oil doesn't have the ability to like not let the germs like spread in it. So use a spoon, and then I take that spoon and I drop it in there. I also keep fractionated coconut oil in my bathroom with my little squirter, and I just squirt that in my hand, and then I drop 2 drops of lavender, 2 drops of melaleuca, and I just take my fingers like this, and then I use that to apply in between the folds and the tissues and just really get it in there. And that's what I do. So I don't have a syringe. I actually am more interested on surface. So that's not really internal, but because that's kind of like the vaginal, even the area on the outside, it's like your mouth. So it would really be no different than oral usage. So that's vaginal insertion for you. So think any issue you have down there. Let's say you have a yeast infection, gosh, maybe you were exposed to an STD, God forbid. There's also for pregnant women, if you're concerned about testing positive for GBS. So those would be some good examples for that. Or let's say you are concerned about just uterine health in general, or maybe cervical cancer, things like that. Okay, so the next one, I promise you I have never done before, and I've actually never recommended it because I don't really know much about it, so I had to read up on it a little bit. Are you ready? This is rectal insertion. But there's a good reason for this. It's recommended for respiratory and other internal conditions, which I thought that was really fascinating. I'd be really curious what the respiratory, like the science behind that, but it wasn't in the book. So there are 2 ways that you would do this. One with a rectal syringe, same way you do vaginal, it's an irrigation, or capsules. Okay, so you put the oil in the capsule and just, you can do a capsule for several hours or overnight. Which honestly, I don't know how you would get it back out. Sorry if that's TMI. Jennifer's like speculating here on this stuff. I do have a nurse on my team that has way more familiarity of it. So if someone wants to tag Christina Brink and she wants to share how she does this, that would be fantastic. Okay, so the reason why we would use the oils rectally is because it produces a systemic effect at a slow rate of absorption, and it avoids that first pass metabolism in the liver. So when we're putting an oil in a capsule, we're taking it in water, and we're dealing with issues that are below the liver, then what we're actually doing in that case is our liver is processing it, so when it gets down to the lower GI tract, our body isn't getting the maximum absorption of that essential oil. So that's when rectal would come into play. So if I had like constipation, chronic horrible constipation, then I might consider that. However, in those cases I haven't really had any issues just putting it in water. So there you go. 6 ways for you to use your essential oils. Now let's talk about mucous membranes. So this is where the fear comes in. People are afraid that using your oils internally is going to damage your mucous membranes. So I have an article, this is actually on the doTERRA Science website. And remember, doTERRA is paving the way in research. We are putting way more money into research than any other essential oil company, like by $1 million. So it's a lot of money. Hospitals, universities, medical clinics, everyone's doing research with the oils that we are using. So Janice, yes, dilute your oils when you're using them vaginally. So the rule was, what did I say? 2 to 3 teaspoons of carrier oil is what you would use. I use more like a dime size amount with 2 drops lavender, 2 drops melaleuca. Okay, so mucous membranes form a protective barrier on the surface of all hollow organs that are open to the outside of the body. So think respiratory and digestive. And those are actually the 2 systems that are most important to essential oil usage anyways. So the mucous membranes in these areas serve different functions than the mucous membranes anywhere else in the body. So the fear that using essential oils aromatically, orally, and internally will damage mucous membranes is really unfounded, because when we do a quick examination on how that functions in the body, then we realize it's really not a danger after all. So mucous membranes produce a variety of protective substances, including mucin. Okay? So mucin is a protein with a unique ability to retain water and perform a gel-like structure we often call mucus. So we know what mucus is, right? It's the thing our kids sneeze out of their nose when they're sick. So mucus adheres to almost everything. Everything. Mucus has three main purposes. It protects the body's cells. Did you know that? Sticks to dirt and microbes, like in our nose and our sinus cavity and our throat, keeps that junk out of our body. And it helps mix with food, so our food moves slowly through the body. So we have mucus, we need mucus, okay? It has, already read that, mucus is continually replaced by the cells that produce it. So it's constantly reproducing. And mucus does a great job at protecting the underlying mucous membranes. That's actually its purpose. So it has very rapidly regenerating cells. So the number of research studies that have examined how essential oils interact with mucus and mucous membranes is quite a bit. So what they have shown is that there are positive effects on the mucous membranes. For example, essential oils have been shown to increase digestive tract mucus production, which is important because it helps to move that food through so it doesn't get stuck in places. Let's see. And also, some essential oils lower the production of the mucus that grows in the respiratory system to help avoid congestion. Actually, I should say it doesn't decrease, it just balances it out. Okay, so does that make sense? So when essential oils are ingested, they don't just sit in the stomach, and this is where a lot of people have some misconceptions. Now, I will say this, if you are a chronically dehydrated person, you're going to experience reactions that you don't want to have, because you need water in your body to help promote the essential oil's ability to move in and out of tissue. So research has shown is that substances such as essential oils, we call those lipophilic substances, they will bind to certain regions of the mucin. Okay, so the mucin is what's the big thing. So essential oils are these substances. So after binding to the mucin, they will travel through the digestive tract until they absorb into the bloodstream. So the mucous membranes and the mucus that surrounds them acts as a carrier, okay? So knowing that, I know that when I put an oil in the back of my throat or in my stomach, that is going to actually carry through to get to parts of my body that I can't get an essential oil to topically. So basically, when taking essential oils aromatically, orally, or internally, you don't need to worry about harming the mucous membranes as long as you stay within appropriate guidelines. So what does that mean? Remember, 1 drop is more, but you use it more often. So a mistake that I see is people think lemon oil that are new, not you guys aren't new, I know you're a little smarter than this, but if you were to take lemon and you think lemon juice, let me take a spoonful of lemon juice, a spoonful of lemon oil could do quite a bit of damage, so don't do that. Start with 3 drops at the most when you're doing this. If you're doing some water, try 1, maybe 2 next, and just work your way up so you know what's comfortable for you. If you find that oils are uncomfortable on a normal for you, you need to up your water intake, okay? That's really important. I don't even know the percentage, maybe someone else can chime in. I think it's like 80% of your body weight in ounces is what you should consume every day. So that's really important to making sure those oils work better, your body systems function better, and you feel better. Okay, so that is what I can tell you about internal oral usage of essential oils. I hope everybody feels a little bit more comfortable now giving it a try. I will say this, when we use oils aromatically, we lose a lot of that absorption into the air, so we get less. Same thing with topical. We put an oil on our skin and some of it evaporates off and some of it goes in. When we use them internally, we're getting 100% of that absorption. So that makes our oils more cost effective and can make us feel better. So there is a time and reason for all different ways, but this is just one. I hope this was helpful for you. Feel free to ask questions. Guys, have a great night.